Welcome to Riverdale After Dark, a podcast about the CW's Riverdale that packs a whole lot into just 58 seconds. I'm Alex.
When you're wandering in the darkness for long enough, you find a little scrap of food or something. Even if it's small, it's like, I'll eat this. This is a full meal for me. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are going to be talking about the just dropped brand new Riverdale Season 5B trailer that is, holy cow, so many things happened, as I said earlier, in just 58 seconds. It's wild.
I'm worried that they're going to start shortening all episodes of Riverdale to just 58 seconds. Because, they're packing in the story. There's a lot going on.
This is a cold open right here. This is how it's going to play in the show. They're just going to go through all of these scenes. And then Riverdale title, and then that's going to keep happening every minute.
It was too much packed into one thing, but afterwards I had such a Riverdale high of oh my God. Oh, I missed this hectic feeling of insanity. Was that a vampire woman that was in his head? What was that?
It's like those old, I forget what they were called, but little pills that you pour water on and then they become giant dinosaur sponges.
Yeah.
It's like I ate a little Riverdale pill and I'm like, oh my God, I'm full of dinosaurs.
So there is so much going on in this trailer. We should definitely talk down as much as we possibly can. But just first, let's talk about big moments. Pete, what's the big shot or two that jumped out at you? I know you said vampire woman. We can clarify what that actually is in a second. But go ahead.
We got to spend a little time with Betty with a chainsaw.
I knew
mom
it.
giving her a pep talk.
God, we should have made calls. We should be holding up a piece of paper that say Pete's is Chainsaw Betty. The future of Dark Betty.
Are you kidding me? Please,
talking about lingering on a shot. I feel like that ended up being half of the trailer.
Yeah,
it was
casually
every
second.
It's great. Well, let's talk about this because there are a couple of threads that we're following throughout the trailer. And in case people forgot, we did leave off with Betty jumping in a truck. She was going to be Trucker Betty, tracking down Polly. She still believes Polly is alive somewhere on the lonely highway. And she has already been pulling over and low-key, sometimes high-key, torturing truckers that she suspects of being responsible for Polly's disappearance / death. And here, it certainly looks to me like through various scenes that she has captured somebody, chained them up, is torturing them, is questioning them. And there's that amazing shot of Alice front in the camera where, what does she say? She says, why don't you just kill him, Betty? Kill that monster. So I would suspect Alice and Betty have captured somebody, put them in their garage, are torturing them, and then she's taking out the chainsaw to maybe chop them into tiny little pieces.
Wow. Yes. No, I gotta think this is all a mistake. That person is innocent and Polly's going to end up being alive. Very loose predictions there. But there's something up with the Cooper murder plot.
I'm hoping that it's zombies loose in the streets, and Betty's just getting a chainsaw and just going out into the streets, just hacking down zombies. Yeah.
Afterlife with Archie, man. Maybe it'll happen finally. The other connection, though, is the only connection here really is chainsaw, but that's what the trash bag killer used, right? Like a chainsaw to chop people up. So maybe there are shades of her turning into the thing that she fears the most or something like that. Maybe that's what they're playing with. We don't necessarily know, but
maybe it's like a Pulp Fiction moment where she's got him chained up and then she's like, which one am I going to torture him with,
Maybe she has a particularly tricky stump in the backyard. She needs to trim down.
That would be a really anticlimactic,
pulls out that chainsaw, goes in the backyard, is like, ooh, tough stump.
Let me ask you, Alex, just real quick follow-up. Are you trying to say that the stump needs to be chainsawed? Because stumps are what happens after you chainsaw. I know you're from the wild woods of Long Island, so maybe you're not super familiar with chainsaws.
All I'm saying is since we last did Riverdale, I have completely revamped the lawn in the backyard of my apartment building.
Yeah.
I've tilled, I've pulled weeds, I've planted grass. So I know what's going on. I think I know what's going on with chainsaws and stumps, okay, buddy?
Yes, definitely. You've always been the lumberjackiest of all of us.
For those listening at home, don't listen to Zalman. You don't chainsaw a stump. That's not going to get you anywhere.
In fact, you've definitely done the chainsaw work if you got a stump. A stump is a side effect of using a chainsaw.
Justin, let's go over to you. What was your big scene that you pulled out of, I was about to say the episode, which is almost accurate.
It is almost accurate. In the future, this is how we'll take in full seasons of Riverdale, and we'll have so much to talk about.
Yeah, I heard that the CW is going to be holding people's eyelids open and just retraining them with episodes of Riverdale.
Honestly, I'm here for it. I need it. So I need someone to hold my eyelids open, full stop. I think here by three big things, just as conversation starters. Religion. We've got a full-on religion. Interesting. They're sort of splitting the line between the farm being a full-on cult and Cheryl and her mom creating a religion, which I think we sort of predicted a little bit, at least, coming out of what we saw when they start to worship the wind at the end of the last episode we saw. Excited. I love the idea that they're doing it as a scam, and it gets way out of hand.
There's that great line from Penelope in the trailer when she's talking to Cheryl, and she says precisely what this weird little town needs. No. I love when they know they're on a show called Riverdale. That's my favorite thing, when they're like, this is a weird town. Well, anyway, Mothman and stuff.
I was a little disappointed she doesn't look like she's in a wall, which is going to be heartbreaking if we don't get her a little bit more just popping out of a wall at least once or twice a season.
Well, after 3 days, Jesus emerged from his personal wall, and this is her version of that.
Okay. I'm Jewish, so I don't completely know, but in the scriptures that you guys read, he's like, well, time to head into my personal wall, right?
I'm sorry, I just said everything I know about religion. So maybe...
Sure.
Thing number
two.
Wait,
I did want to mention, though, before we move on from Penelope and Cheryl, because I think there's a couple of questions raised here. One, Cheryl seems all in on it in the scene. She's dancing with Penelope in front of the congregation, and the very last beat of the trailer is her standing with Archie and Kevin holding that red parasol, and she says, Amen. It might be unrelated, but it certainly seems like she's worshiping the wind god too.
Here's what I think based on what we saw and what we saw in this trailer. I think she believes it, and Penelope is running it as a scam. Mm-hmm. So it will eventually pit them against each other, is my prediction.
Interesting. And one last thing, this might be an unrelated shot, but it certainly seemed like Kevin was in the room with the wind god and sort of looking up in this, beatific expression, just sort of enraptured by what was going on. Is Kevin going to get suckered into yet another cult?
Well, I heard this religion, they actually put kidneys in you. It's actually pretty good for him.
Yeah.
I took a drive around the South one time, and there was a bunch of churches that say extra kidneys for all who participate, and I went into everyone. To every service. I'm just chock full of kidneys at this point.
There's that old urban legend where you wake up in a bathtub full of ice, full of extra organs.
I love that one. What was the second thing?
Josie and the Pussycats.
Yes.
We get a lot of them in this. I mean,
Great.
We heard the rumors and talk that they were coming back, but it feels like they are back in a big way.
Yeah. Well, they're only going to be back, I think, for one episode.
Come on. That's what I thought as well, based on what you mentioning that. But I'm surprised how much they're in this trailer.
Well, I loved it. I mean, that was the thing that I was going to call out. We got to see Josie and the Pussycats dancing on stage and singing. We got to see just Valerie and Melody on the White Worm stage with a bunch of backup dancers. We got a beautiful shot of Josie singing, which is great. And then there's that quick scene where Tabitha meets Josie in Pops and says, "Are you Josie?" There's one other thing that I had kind of a question mark about, and this jumps into another one of the big threads in the trailer that I think for Riverdale they were remarkably subtle about. But there's another shot of looks like Josie kissing somebody. Now, there's two ways this could go. I think it's people identified there was a character that didn't have a name when there was the group shot of Josie and the Pussycats and some of the other cast members all standing in front of their big tour bus. So it's probably a roadie, I'm guessing. But it's also possible that it could be part of this other thread that I thought was interesting, which is there's a flashback episode, or it certainly looks like there's a flashback episode. And I believe if you go back and listen to our last podcast episode with Denise Nedredre, the set decorator, she teased that episode 12 is like nothing that the show has ever done before. And I think we're getting what people suspected, which is a young Hiram-focused flashback episode, possibly called Citizen Lodge. So it's possible that might be young Sierra there instead kissing somebody instead of young Josie, but it could go either way. That was a long way of saying that.
I know, but I will say I was away visiting my family in upstate New York, where TV is not on demand as much as it is in our Wi-Fi lives. And so we watched live with Kelly and Ryan Seacrest. Mm-hmm. And Mark Consuelos is married to Kelly Ripa. And their son, Michael Consuelos, was on as a guest. He's playing young Hiram. And he was talking a little bit about the whole thing. And I think you're exactly right. It's a flashback episode that it is going to reveal a lot based on the very lazy interview Kelly conducted with her son. I learned that.
Do you have high-key interviews with your kids, Justin?
There's a show where they interview people about stuff. Okay. Not that that's a hard-hitting journalism, but it was basically like a lot of the interview was like, you're the good son, and our other son's the bad son. It's like, what is this?
What are you doing?
Who's the audience for this?
Listen,
Mark
they have
Consuelos?
a happy family, and that's all that matters. There are a couple of scenes, though, that it does look like Michael Consuelos is the son. Yes. Michael shows up as young Hiram. I tried to still frame through it a little bit. It looked like there's two shots of somebody beating up a bulldog in the locker room. I don't know who the bulldog is, but I do wonder if it's young Hiram beating up, I really should have looked up his name before this, young Reggie's dad, and that we're going to get a sense of like why Reggie's dad, why Mr. Mantle is the way he is, why Hiram is the way he is, and that's going to feed into that Hiram and Reggie relationship in the present day.
And hopefully it'll offer some clarity as to what Hiram's scams are here outside of the swamp, just being in charge of the swamp.
Loves the swamp.
Speaking of Reggie, it looked like Veronica was in the car kissing Reggie.
That almost definitely was young Hiram. Like, I think that was young Hermione, not Veronica, kissing young Hiram in the car at Pops. What? You were supposed to think it's Reggie because another thread that they play here is it seems like Veggie might be rising again.
Yes.
But I don't think so. I liked Veggie, mind you.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
If you did, you'd be more excited.
I kept it pretty secret.
Yeah, and also you'd be more excited about the rising when you're clearly not.
Yeah. I just
and
don't.
It's called Man Monica. That's the name.
Hashtag Man Monica. Sorry about that, everybody. Do you really think Veggie is rising based on this trailer, Justin?
More, not really based on the trailer. It feels like more wishful thinking, I think. I feel like we're going to play Varchi here for a while before hopefully getting some Barchi back, which is what
you're still hopeful for Barchi at this point.
I'm not hopeful. I'm a believer.
Okay.
I've been in this my wall for 3 fucking months. I'm ready to come out into a whole new world of Barchi.
Oh, man. Are you going to create a Barchi cult?
I've already done it, my friend. I've already done it.
Check. Pete, what do you think? Veggie rising or Varchi even?
I don't know. I think, they like to play with our emotions a lot, so it's hard to tell if it's going to be a flashback thing, because it did look like an old-timey car. So,
I do think because Camila Mendes is playing, she's playing her mom essentially.
Yes,
Veronica's playing her mom on the show, which is confusing.
Yeah. Well, it's confusing because I guess they wouldn't get Mark Consuelos to play young Hiram. That would be weird. But otherwise, if you go by Midnight Club rules back two seasons back, I don't even remember at this point, you get Camila Mendes playing young Hermione, and KJ Apa is playing young Fred, et cetera, et cetera. Let's run through some of the other things that went out of the trailer. Oh, yeah, Justin, go ahead.
My third and final one is a big one, Jughead. Jughead in this, we get him painted with a bunch of rats.
He's the Rat King, baby.
He's the Rat King. I do think, based on this trailer, my thoughts are he's going to be hallucinating for a lot of the rest of the season. Whether
Really?
Yes. I think the Mothman guy is a full-on Jughead hallucination. And because I think later, don't we see Archie in maybe the same clothes?
Yeah, I don't know if it's related necessarily because we don't see who is seeing that Mothman. By the way, just to clarify for you, Pete, from about 15 minutes ago on the podcast, that's a Mothman, not a vampire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that explains it, right?
Yeah, it was 2 seconds on the screen. It was hard to tell.
Mothman don't suck blood; they suck candlelight.
Mm-hmm. And maple syrup, of course. And then they get sucked in and they die, as we know. So yeah, that's a Mothman, and you're absolutely right. It's Archie's outfit from the very last shot standing with Cheryl, except it's a Mothman face. So somebody's hallucinating. I wonder whether it's Jughead or somebody else.
Definitely Jughead. He had a hamburger.
Archie turns into Mothman. That's going to be a thing later.
Well, let me throw you something out at you, because I think the first episode back, we suspect that it's going to, and we don't see too much of this, but it's the Betty and Tabitha probably getting high on maple mushrooms so that they can retrace Jughead's steps.
Yes.
Do you think most of this is from the first episode, that everybody teams together on trying to find Jughead? He's wandering through the woods, sees Archie as a Mothman. Betty and Tabitha are high on maple mushrooms wandering around Riverdale. That can't possibly
like crazy
be one episode.
Tripping balls. Because I will say the episode like nothing else we've ever seen could also be them all just tripping the entire time.
Sure, that's true. Let's run through this stuff. So we do get that great Rat King shot. This is another thing that we talked to Denise about, but she mentioned, how many paintings did she say she has sourced?
100, did she say? Or like
something like
that. So many.
Yeah, we see a bunch of them, including that great Rat King painting of Jughead. Then Jughead unconscious in an alley. His hand is duct taped up. So we know he does have a hand. That's good after he broke out of the handcuffs the last time. Jughead's narration says, "I vanished, swallowed up by the dark." And then we get something that I think probably happens later in the Veronica-Reggie plotline, where Reggie is wearing a White Worm t-shirt, opens up a truck, and it's full of something. So I feel like whatever Veronica and he are talking about, they've made it. What were you saying, Pete?
It's white worms in the truck.
It's full of white worms. Finally.
Full of white worms.
Great. Just like little worms that are white, or actual dragons?
No,
I think
don't ask me. I'm just a guy on a podcast.
Pete, I think, means albino earthworms, which are very hard to find, but fish love them.
Yeah, go nuts for them. Then we do get the scene of Veronica trying to win over Reggie in a jewelry store. Veronica says it's not too late to switch sides, fight with the good guys, and Reggie says bad guys pay better. And I don't think he's switching over for good. I think he's going to help out Veronica, but then kind of turn against everybody again, right?
He's going to come back to the good side at the end, don't you think?
Probably by the end of the season. I think so. There's still good in him.
He's been doing some good, despite being on the bad team.
Yeah, he helped Betty in the swamp.
Yeah.
Sure did.
So then we get a scene that I don't think we've ever seen on the show before, where Hiram tells Archie he might want to watch his back, and Archie looks upset. That seemed new. Definitely. Yeah, it's like a new dynamic for the two of them.
Finally, they're at odds. Did he say watch your back or wash your back?
I don't know.
He's so sweaty.
Yeah, he is. Maybe there's a scene in the bathhouse where, like, Hiram is washing his back. That's how you wash a back, right? Like this?
Oh, my God.
You definitely understand so much about the world.
You have flippers for hands? What was that?
Yeah, I think I don't know. You're in the water already. Why not act like a seal?
He's been too busy tilling the earth. His hands are so calloused and sore.
Then Archie says, I don't want the scumbag arrested. I want him hurt. Probably talking about Hiram. Maybe. We get the scene of someone in chains. Betty says this guy might have killed Polly. She grabs the guy in chains. And then we get a shot of Cheryl at home. Cheryl, my mother started a ministry. Penelope in robes. Shella with her. We get a quick shot of, it looks like Reggie and Veronica clinking champagne glasses, probably cheersing whatever was in that truck, white worms or otherwise. Penelope says precisely what this weird little town needs. We see a suitcase full of money, of note, not river bucks with Veronica's face on it, but actual money. So that's interesting.
I can't believe they're still using old money.
Yeah, that's the old money.
We got the Pussycats reunited. We see Josie and Pops. Uncle Frank shows up, says to Archie, you can't save everyone. Archie looks pretty concerned. Then we see the scene young Hiram, probably following a gun. We get the scenes of Betty with the chainsaw. We get a quick shot, we haven't talked about this yet, of Archie at war.
Yeah.
So are we getting another flashback to war, or what's going on there?
Well, it seems like that's a metaphor they're using for the season. Here, because it doesn't, and I mean, we say this, but it could be like the end of the season is like, now Riverdale's at war with Greendale or something.
It's probably a dream, right? Like he's having a stress dream about his time at war.
Yes, and if we remember, but I don't think it's meant to be taken literally, because also it's a lot of dream logic here. Jughead was wounded, maybe killed, right, in the beginning of the season, and Archie was trying to save him. Which is interesting because Archie's not doing a lot of saving of Jughead as of now. So maybe that's where we're headed.
Well, I did want to ask you about this because somebody hit me up about this on Tumblr, and I feel like you'll have a very specific take, Justin. Given everything that we see in the trailer, there was that whole speech between Betty and Archie where Betty said, I don't want to bring you into my darkness, right?
Yeah.
That's why we can't be together. And Archie agreed. And then in this trailer, Betty gets chainsaw. Archie is jump punching a dude by the end of it, talking about taking Hiram down, fighting people. What do you think? Is this actually heading us back towards Archie because they're going to realize, oh, wait, actually we are on similar paths? Or is it just the show being the show?
I think it's the show being the show because I actually do think they're on pretty divergent paths. Like Betty is operating at the fringes of Riverdale. She's in trucks. She's trying to like save Polly, who she thinks is dead but may actually be alive. She is sort of in a different show almost. She's in sort of the Twin Peaks scary show, and Archie's in the like fists, like let's fight everybody, older version of the show. Like I have to take down Hiram. I do think, if I may take us back to Barchi. By the end of the season, Archie is going to be the one that rescues her from the darkness, bringing her back toward the light and their window-to-window relationship.
You really don't think we're headed back towards Bughead at this point?
It's just, the paths are so divergent for those two, even more divergent than Archie.
Stop.
They are.
Next episode, Betty is going to be searching for him. Right, their paths are literally going to verge.
That's a one-time look.
If I could go back to something you said before we move on to this, bickering over who's going to be dating who's stuff. Okay, Archie, if they do one episode where Archie's like One Punch Man and he's just running around punching people like for a whole episode, that would be the greatest thing ever. Like
the all
so
punch
much
episode
fun.
of Riverdale.
Yeah, just the Archie punching people all episode. Come on.
I do love a good jump punch.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. That was a fun
shot.
It's up there with like the My Cousin Vinny jump punch that is just legendary. I mean, that was the legendary jump punch.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I think of when I think of a jump punch.
Yep.
Definitely. And the first thing I think of when I think of My Cousin Vinny is the jump punch.
That won an Oscar for Marissa Tomei, right?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
She
the jump
the
punch, just to be clear.
She thanked it.
And then she jump punched the Oscar. That was fun. That was a fun classic moment. I love seeing that in montages at the Oscars. Anyway, back to this rundown here. Another thing that we haven't really talked about, there's a bunch of musical numbers. Yes, Justin, what?
We're not going to move off Barchi Bughead here because I got more to say.
Well, let's come back to it again because we have a lot of other things to talk around and we may run out of time. We see a bunch of stuff with Tabitha leading a song and dance number in Pops, then down to the White Worm. There's a shot of her and Betty singing and dancing. There's a shot of her, Veronica, and Cheryl singing and dancing. I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like this is probably from the musical episode potentially and not the Josie and the Pussycats episode, which are actually two separate episodes. What do you guys think?
Agree.
Yeah.
To your point, the Josie and the Pussycat, I bet they'll be sort of the only ones singing.
Probably.
And then everyone else.
Oh my
will be
God!
singing
Could you
in the
imagine if they brought back Josie and the Pussycats and then Archie comes in and is like, "Actually, I wrote a couple of songs."
Yeah. Stop right there.
50% of the Josie and the Pussycats episode is just Archie boxing. It just keeps cutting back to him during all the songs, and that's it.
Rising up. It would be.
We do get a shot of Veronica hugging Archie in his house. Is it a hello hug or a goodbye hug? I guess we'll find out.
Very different hugs.
Very different hugs. We got Jughead walking down a road alone. He seems to be wearing a very un-Jughead winter hat. Like, at least it doesn't have the crown points or anything like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. Wonder what's going on there. We do see the Mothman in the hoodie. Then there's a very quick shot that is killing the Shoney fan base right now. Cheryl goes to kiss Minerva, a.k.a. Min Min, who is back in front of what looks like a painting of Cheryl that Cheryl has made of herself. I don't know what else is going on, but I suspect it looked kind of like there were angel wings or something. So what do you think at this point? Particularly given we do see a shot of Tony back with her baby, happy, standing with fangs. So we know Tony is going to be back on the show, though not immediately. I think it's around the 15th episode or so. Is Cheryl with Minerva now and Shoney is dead? Or is Minerva just a stopgap to Shoney reuniting?
Pete?
I feel like
I'm Justin, and I have nothing to say about this.
Yeah, you can't stop Cheryl and Tony. I mean, they're a power couple, and I can't take this any longer. I need them back together.
I think we're gonna get Minerva for a while. We're gonna wade through that. We're gonna get Tony back, bringing up baby, having some fun. But there's more time here. The season is not just. They haven't even shot a bunch of episodes for this show.
No, well, they've done the whole 5th season at this point. They're going to be going back and doing season 6 starting in September.
Oh, great! But I do think there's more. There's time here for Shoney to come back, and I think it will alongside Archie.
I agree. I think we're going to get Minerva in the middle, like you're saying, as the stopgap, while Vanessa Morgan in real life was off on maternity leave and dealing with her real life baby. And then we'll be dealing with the Wind God stuff at the same time. And then it'll come back and we'll get more Shoney. We'll get a resolution. That feels like an overall arc to me. We do get a quick shot of Sierra McCoy. She is back for the Josie and the Pussycats episode as well. Robin Givens, I believe she directed it, unless I got my facts wrong. We got Betty and Tabitha dancing and singing in White Worm on the bar. I noted down Coyote Ugly style, so maybe this year's musical is Coyote Ugly. That'd be pretty great. Can't Stop the Moonlight? Everybody loves that.
Oh, boy.
Can't Stop the Moonlight.
Yeah, we know how it goes.
My brain no longer has that information in it.
Yeah.
I guess I deemed it not important at one point.
We get a quick shot of Jughead at the bar. He kisses some sort of medallion. Clearly has his hot dog tattoo that we see. There's another painting. It looks like it's probably Betty with the chainsaw and then eyes floating on the painting. I do wonder if that's part of the Night Gallery episode that we've talked about on the podcast before, that Machen Amick directed, that seems to be in the Three Tales mold. So maybe we are going to get like a zoom into that painting and then this whole Betty chainsaw thing going on there. Reggie looks pumped to the jewelry store. Hiram does finger guns to some guy at the hospital. Archie kisses a dog, has a busted hand. Is that Vegas? I think. Maybe. Who's somehow alive 7 years later?
I mean, you think he's kissing another dog?
I don't know. He'd never kiss another dog.
Oh, come on.
That's right.
Yeah. Argus for life. Hashtag Argus.
What happens in Vegas's mouth stays in Vegas's mouth.
Vecchi? I don't know. And then a bunch of moments that I think we've mentioned. There's just some quick shots of Veronica looking thrilled in a jewelry store, Betty happy, Jughead thinking, Archie jump punching the dude, Cheryl amen, and then that last shot ends the whole thing. So there you go. Tons of things going on in that minute. Before we wrap up here, final thoughts on this trailer. Anything you're particularly looking forward to, Pete?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see Betty get her vengeance with a chainsaw, and always be jump punching.
Justin, what about you? What are you most looking forward to when these new episodes return?
I think what I was trying to say before is that, yes, Betty may be looking for Jughead now, but I think that's playing into his hallucinations that we just got the beginning of in the last episode we saw before the break. So I don't think we're headed back to Bughead.
Do you think Betty is trying to find Jughead so she can tell him, hey, I'm actually in love with Archie?
Oh,
hey, I know your hand almost fell off. I just wanted to let you know, though, real quick. Archie is endgame.
Just some shower time fun, and they realized, hey, it's over. It didn't work. We tried it. It was hot, but, we're moving on.
Yeah, that's how relationships work. Like, whew, that was hot. Now never to think about it again. And I also like how you're like, yeah, your hand fell off. Again, misunderstanding how cutting things work.
Come on, man. Arms are the stumps of the human body.
Yes,
Stop
true. It. I think Betty her whole story is moving into this whole other dark path. Like, I don't think she has time for Jughead right now.
I guess we'll have to see what happens. And we'll see whether Jabitha picks up as well. That's not really touched on.
That's where the heat is, baby. We haven't even gotten there yet.
We'll have to see. Obviously, everybody in the fan base is going to be really chill about it no matter what happens.
Super chill.
Especially us.
And we are very excited to be talking about the show as it comes back on August 11th.
So close.
So close. So soon. We will be there for every episode, 100% definitely. Very excited to talk about it with all of you. In the meantime, if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Riverdale. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show. Socially, Riverdale Dark on Twitter, Riverdale After on Instagram, Riverdale After Dark on Facebook, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you after dark.
Parents, lock up your stumps. Alex is coming to town.
Chainsaw Betty.
Me wanting